Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers officer commissions, disabled veterans, and reasonable suspicion, and is brought to us by the Batosize channel, as the footage was originally posted on Miguel McQueen's channel but has since been removed. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Before we dive into the interaction, I want to give a big thanks to the sponsor of this episode, Raycon. I've been using Raycon earbuds for years now, and I never leave the house without them. Raycon's everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever and are perfect for any occasion. Thanks to Raycon's optimized gel tips, they have the perfect in-ear fit and are extremely comfortable. You can enjoy up to 8 hours of playtime, 32 hours of total battery life, seamless Bluetooth pairing, and booming bass for a fraction of the cost of other premium audio brands. No wonder Raycon's everyday earbuds have over 50,000 five-star reviews. Raycon earbuds also offer a ton of features to enhance your listening experience, such as voice assistant activation and custom sound profiles. Raycon is so confident that you'll love their earbuds that they offer a 30-day free return policy so that you have absolutely nothing to lose. Click on the link in my description or go to buyraycon.com/audit to get 15% off your order and choose the color that fits your style. Thanks again to Raycon for sponsoring this episode. On May 22, 2022, Police Academy graduate and retired disabled military veteran Michael McQueen parked his vehicle in a handicapped parking spot at a 7-Eleven in the suburban Dallas-Fort Worth area. Upon noticing the vehicle, Captain Scott Peters and Sergeant Sean Fulliger of the Joshua Police Department approached Mr. McQueen and began to question him.
Can we see some ID?
No, what for?
I just asked you.
What's your probable cause to ask me for ID?
It does not have a handicap placard.
Read the plate, man. You don't even know what you're talking about. DV, that's disabled veteran plate. We can park in handicapped spots.
Let me see some ID, please.
No. You have no probable cause. You're going down a bad road here. Really?
I've asked you a question.
Okay.
And I have never seen anybody wear a police academy
That's your
graduation
business.
after
That's
they
your business.
graduate.
I wear it all the time. Do my training, and I can do that because I'm a graduate. I can wear the uniform.
Have
I
you
can
been
wear it.
certified as a peace
Of course,
officer?
I have my certification. What are you talking about? Why don't you run the plate? I
We
gave you
already did.
permission. And what did you see?
Not that
You
you're
had
a
to see
peace
the
officer.
certification. You had to see it.
No, that's not on
You
there.
had to see it. You had to see it. Come on, man.
Certification isn't on your tag.
When you run my name, you can find it. Contact T-Cole. Why don't you contact them? You saw my name. Call T-Cole. Go ahead.
Run his name.
Run it.
Mr. McQueen tells the officers to contact T. Cole to confirm that he is a commissioned peace officer. T. Cole, which is short for the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, is a state regulatory agency that is responsible for establishing and enforcing standards for law enforcement, corrections, and telecommunications personnel. Under Section 1701.151 of the Texas Occupations Code, the Commission has the authority to, quote, establish minimum standards relating to competence and reliability, including education, training, physical, mental, and moral standards for licensing as an officer. And according to Section 1701.301, quote, a person may not appoint or employ a person to serve as an officer unless the person holds an appropriate license issued by the Commission. T. Cole also manages continuing education requirements for peace officers. And Section 1701.352 of the Occupations Code states that, quote, the Commission shall require a state, county, special district, or municipal agency that appoints or employs peace officers to provide each peace officer with a training program at least once every 48 months that is approved by the Commission. Training topics include civil rights, racial sensitivity, cultural diversity, crisis intervention techniques, and the recognition and documentation of cases that involve child abuse or neglect, family violence, sexual assault, and sex offender characteristics. The Commission is also in charge of disciplinary actions against licensees, such as reprimands or the revocation and suspensions of licenses, and handles other administrative duties regarding the licensing and management of the state peace officer commissioning system. In this situation, T. Cole would be able to verify whether Mr. McQueen was a licensed peace officer, as it is the agency that would be responsible for his licensing.
I know about Joshua Police PD. I know. Yeah.
Okay, you know what?
Yeah. So just go ahead and try it.
When'd you graduate?
I don't have to tell you anything. Don't ask me any questions because I'm not answering.
Okay.
What? Why? Why? You detaining me?
I don't want you to get hit by a car. Just
No.
step over here.
Then my question is, are you detaining me?
I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so then don't tell me where to go. No, no, nope, nope.
I know you told me just pull up. I don't know what's going on.
Ask him.
He told me to stand over here with you. I don't even
Okay,
know
so
what's
you're
going
standing,
on.
so you're standing here, and I'm here. So what are you talking about? What are you asking me any questions for?
I'm not asking you.
Okay, what are you telling? Don't give me any instructions.
I was just asking you.
Don't
just
give me
to
any
hang out
instructions.
for me until we figure out
No.
what the hell is going on.
Since he has no probable cause to stop me, and I'm not being detained, he's got 1 minute, and then I'm leaving. First of all, even you know, if I have disabled veteran plate, I can park in a handicapped spot.
they just
Even
changed-
you know
they
that.
just changed
No,
that,
no,
yeah.
no, they didn't just change that.
Yeah,
It's
it
been that
started-
way.
Well, it started in September that it was that way.
No, sir.
Mr. McQueen claims that individuals who have so-called disabled veteran license plates can park in handicapped spots and have been permitted to do so for years. Under Section 504.202 of the Texas Transportation Code, a veteran of the United States Armed Forces is entitled to register for disabled veteran license plates if, quote, the person has suffered, as a result of military service, at least a 50% service-connected disability or a 40% service-connected disability because of the amputation of a lower extremity. The person receives compensation from the United States because of the disability, and the motor vehicle is owned by the person and has a gross vehicle weight of 18,000 pounds or less, or is a motorhome. Disabled veteran license plates are generally required to include the letters DV on the plate and the words Disabled Veteran and U.S. Armed Forces at the bottom of each license plate. It should be noted that an individual can receive Texas disabled veteran plates without being qualified to receive specialty license plates that display the so-called International Symbol of Accessibility, commonly referred to as disability license plates. Section 504.201 of the Transportation Code allows individuals with a permanent disability to obtain these plates by submitting a written statement from a physician that certifies that the individual is, quote, legally blind or has a mobility problem that substantially impairs the person's ability to ambulate. Prior to 2022, Section 681.008 of the Transportation Code allowed disabled veterans to park in a parking space or area that is designated specifically for persons with physical disabilities as long as they had disabled veteran plates. However, as of January 1st, 2022, Texas Senate Bill 792 revised Section 504.202 to allow disabled veterans who also have a qualifying permanent disability to receive disabled veteran license plates that include the accessibility symbol upon submitting a written statement from a physician, and updated Section 681.008 to only permit vehicles with disabled veteran license plates that have the accessibility symbol park in spaces reserved for individuals with disabilities. This change to the law is intended to ensure that only disabled veterans who meet the medical requirements the legislature has established for use of disabled parking spots can use them. Because Mr. McQueen's license plate is not visible in the footage, it is unclear whether he has the correct disabled veteran plates to legally park in the spot.
It's been that way for years. I've had this for 5 years.
Well,
It's
as
already
far
been
as
that way.
as far as I know,
And if he's a
September
captain, he
changed.
should have known that. But he didn't. And your reputation is already bad. From years ago, you had a corruption scandal. You had a corruption scandal. You had to get rid of a lot of your
I was gonna say, that was
PDs.
way before I got here.
And you got one amongst your ranks. Are you finished? I gotta go. If he knows, and he's a new guy, and you don't know, then there's something wrong with
Yeah,
you.
but he was ambulance here before then.
Mr. McQueen and the officers discuss a corruption scandal that occurred in the Joshua Police Department years ago. They appear to be referring to an incident that occurred in 2013 involving officers being allegedly paid for hours they did not work. In September 2013, it was reported that former Chief Annabeth Robertson resigned after 18 years at the Joshua Police Department after an audit performed while she was on medical leave identified significant discrepancies in the timesheets for at least one officer. Captain Josh Vincent and Patrol Officer Jacob Dupree also resigned as a result of the probe, and Officer Nick Garrett, who was still in a probationary period, was fired. While former Chief Robertson later claimed that she was fired and did not resign, City Manager Paulette Hartman maintained that Chief Robertson resigned in the wake of the audit. Although the scandal occurred nearly 10 years before this interaction, it is clear that it has continued to shape Mr. McQueen's perception of the Joshua Police Department.
Did you check T-code? Did you call Navarro?
He did call me.
Okay, so then, you know, you're feeling small now, aren't you?
No, that's it.
You shouldn't run up on people. You have no probable cause. If you wanted to follow me and run my plate, you could have done that.
Talk to anybody?
Well, I don't have to talk to you.
And you did.
I don't have to talk to you. That's right. I already told you that. Waste my time and you. You're supposed to be a captain, and you don't know disabled plates have a right to park in a parking spot. And You violating people's rights, huh? Running up on them without probable cause. I'm in a uniform.
Are you a peace officer?
I have
Are you
T-code
a PO?
certification.
Are you a PO?
I have T-code
You're not.
certification. Yes, I do. That's
It
when you
expired.
checked it.
It expired.
Who says who? My certification doesn't say expired. You want it to be expired because you see brown skin. So take a walk. Yeah, walk of shame. Don't run up on me again. Don't ever you run up on me again. Do you understand? And learn the law, and you better have probable cause before you run up on somebody in uniform.
Mr. McQueen argues that the officers did not have probable cause to detain him, and Captain Peters claims that they had reasonable suspicion to stop him because he was in uniform. As we have previously discussed on ATA, officers only need to have reasonable suspicion of criminal activity in order to conduct a brief investigatory stop, known as a Terry stop. Probable cause is a higher standard of evidence that officers must have in order to conduct an arrest legally. It is unclear why Captain Peters believed that Mr. McQueen's uniform was suspicious, but if Mr. McQueen's license plate did not comply with the new legal requirements under Senate Bill 792, the officers would have reasonable suspicion to investigate him for a violation of Section 681.011 of the Texas Transportation Code, which states that an individual commits an offense if they park in a space or area designated specifically for individuals with disabilities without proper license plates or a disabled parking placard. It is also possible that a court could conclude that the officers had reasonable suspicion to detain Mr. McQueen even if the license plate had the required accessibility symbol. In the 2014 case of Hine versus North Carolina, the Supreme Court held that because it was thus objectively reasonable for an officer to think that a faulty right brake light was a violation of the law when it actually was not, the officer had reasonable suspicion to stop the driver, quote, because the mistake of law was reasonable. In reaching this conclusion, the court explained that, quote, the ultimate touchstone of the Fourth Amendment is reasonableness. To be reasonable is not to be perfect, and so the Fourth Amendment allows for some mistakes on the part of government officials. The limit is that the mistakes must be those of reasonable men. The court also argued that, quote, reasonable men make mistakes of law too, and such mistakes are no less compatible with the concept of reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion arises from the combination of an officer's understanding of the facts and his understanding of the relevant law. The officer may be reasonably mistaken on either ground. In the Hine case, the court determined that it was a reasonable mistake of law for the officer to believe that 2 working brake lights were required instead of 1, due to the confusing wording of the statute. And it is certainly within the realm of possibility for a court to decide that it was a reasonable mistake of law for the officers to believe that a disability parking placard was required. However, even if the officers did have reasonable suspicion, it should be noted that Texas law does not have a stop and identify law that allows officers to demand that individuals identify themselves during a Terry stop. Section 38.02 of the Texas Penal Code states that, quote, a person commits an offense if he intentionally refuses to give his name, residence address, or date of birth to a peace officer who has lawfully arrested the person and requested the information. The statute also prohibits giving a quote-unquote false or fictitious name when lawfully detained, but does not criminalize refusing to self-identify during a stop based on reasonable suspicion. Therefore, although the officers may have been within their authority to detain Mr. McQueen, they could not require him to identify himself unless they arrested him.
You don't have no reasonable suspicion because I'm on the same side as you.
No, you aren't.
I have T-code.
I don't
I'm a
care.
graduate
Take
of
the
the
car.
police academy. Okay, just like you years ago. You probably couldn't even pass the test. Right
Get
now,
going.
you go. You get going. You had no probable cause. I have peace officer certification just like you. So go learn the law before you start teaching young people how to do the job. You're a bad example to the young fella over there. You don't even know the rules of parking.
After this final exchange, the officers and Mr. McQueen all left the scene without further incident. A little over a week after the May 22nd interaction, Mr. McQueen shared the footage of the encounter via Facebook on May 30th, 2022. Although Mr. McQueen's video originally garnered significant interest, it has since been removed from Facebook. It is unclear whether Mr. McQueen intends to take any additional action. Overall, the Joshua PD officers get a C-, because although they may have had reasonable suspicion to detain Mr. McQueen, they demanded that he identify identify himself when it was not legally required for him to do so, and maintained hostile demeanors throughout the interaction. Captain Peters was especially aggressive and combative in his conduct, and the other officers failed to intervene and de-escalate the situation sufficiently. It is particularly concerning that Captain Peters adamantly disagreed when Mr. McQueen argued that he and Captain Peters were, quote, on the same side. While I recognize that Captain Peters may have been referring to the fact that Mr. McQueen's peace officer commission may have expired, it is alarming that a captain would not agree that police officers and everyday citizens are aligned in their interests. Attitudes like this build rifts between officers and the communities they're supposed to serve, and I would challenge Captain Peters to reconsider his viewpoint. Mr. McQueen gets a B+, because while he was at times unnecessarily combative with the officers and conflated probable cause and reasonable suspicion, he unwaveringly advocated for his rights and refused to identify himself when he was not required to do so. Although it is possible that Mr. McQueen may not have been aware of the most recent changes to disabled veteran parking laws, I cannot say for certain without knowing whether he had obtained updated license plates with the required accessibility symbol, and he at least demonstrated superior knowledge to the Joshua officers, who did not seem to understand that a placard was not required if the vehicle had compliant disabled veteran license plates. I applaud Mr. McQueen for standing up for his rights and refusing to back down when faced with unlawful police commands. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out my second channel for even more police interaction content.